Hey friends, my name is Tradgik and welcome back to another video. For those of you who don't know me, I am a content creator, streamer, and game collector here on YouTube. And today we're going to be taking a look at the majority of Souls-like games out there and putting them to the test to see which one is the best. Now please keep in mind this is all just 100% my opinion, which automatically makes it right. And let me know what your guys' opinion is down in the comments section below. So as far as the rankings go, today I decided to keep it simple and just tier them from C rank all the way up to S+. You know, just for those special games that do a little bit more than all the other ones. So with that out of the way, let's just jump right on into it. Alright, so I already placed the Surge 2 and Lords of the Fallen into the Never Played category, and there are clearly a bunch of other Souls-likes that aren't here, like Another Crab's Treasure and the new Lords of the Fallen. Matter of fact, I'm noticing even Lies of P isn't on here, but that's okay, because I actually haven't played any of them yet, so we're good. However, every other game here, which is mostly from software games, I have actually played, and most of them I've actually platinumed. So you know that you're getting a true and honest opinion here. Alright, so this time we're actually going to take it from the right side and go all the way left. Starting off with the Surge. Now, I think if any game was going to make it into C tier, it probably would be this one. But I'm actually going to slap it up in B tier because it's a pretty competent game. It just doesn't really live up to the quality of a lot of the other titles on this list. Next up, we have Sekiro. Oh, Sekiro holds such a special place in my heart. I mean, just the combat, the way that you deflect attacks, and the fact that it forces you to get good. I absolutely love Sekiro. It is one of the most rewarding games that From Software has ever made. And I really think that anybody who's never played it definitely should, and you should see it through straight to the end. The original Nioh. I remember playing this with friends and hating the co-op system. I did enjoy the game overall. I thought it was pretty good. I thought its combat system was complex, but kind of a little cumbersome coming into it. It kind of grew on you over time, though, but the fact that you couldn't really create your character, the builds were kind of limiting in my opinion. But I mean, overall, it was a pretty decent game, but a lot of that stuff actually got corrected in Nioh 2. So I remember playing Nioh 2 and enjoying that one a lot more. They had a much better system for co-op, and they ended up kind of allowing you to create your own character and do a few other things, and I just think they really did improve upon Nioh. Elden Ring. I actually just platinumed this game last week, and I just finished the DLC as well last weekend. And I'm not going to lie, a while back I probably would have put it right about here, but that was 100% for personal reasons. I just had a lot of bad memories and experiences tied to Elden Ring around the time that it came out, but that's actually not a reflection of the game itself. Instead, Elden Ring belongs in the S+ tier. It is an incredible game and one of the best that From Software will probably ever make. I mean, it's extremely flexible with your build types, where you want to go, when you want to do it. I mean, the open world is so well detailed. I could just go on and on and on about Elden Ring and its DLC. And I will say the DLC is hard as hell, but highly rewarding and worth experiencing. Next up, the original Dark Souls. Where to put the original Dark Souls? A lot of people will say it is an S+ game. I would say it's an S. All the reasons people love Dark Souls are the same reasons I love Dark Souls. You know, the world kind of being on top of each other, being able to kind of have everything loop back onto itself. It almost feels like a 3D Castlevania meets like a Metroid kind of, well, Metroidvania. It kind of feels a bit like that, but with, you know, Dark Souls' trademark kind of gameplay style. And overall, it's a great game, but there's just something about Dark Souls 1 that doesn't really scream to me like a lot of the other ones do. And, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get there, but some of the other Dark Souls games just kind of, I don't know, I feel like they've got better atmosphere and better tones and stuff like that. Next up, Dark Souls 3. I'm actually going to put that as well in the S rank. I think it belongs kind of right here, just above Dark Souls 1. And mainly that's because of its extremely tight and almost perfected gameplay loop that you would later see kind of even more perfected in Elden Ring. But Dark Souls 3 just controls so well. When you make a mistake in Dark Souls 3, it's oftentimes your fault, like almost 100%. I wasn't a big fan of its short length, though. I find that Dark Souls 1 and 2 were both very long games. Elden Ring is, of course, a very long game. But Dark Souls 3 feels pretty short, especially when you know exactly where to go. I don't know. I like Dark Souls 3. It's a great game. I'm kind of like shitting on it, but I actually love Dark Souls 3. It is a really good game. Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. You guys are going to hate me for that. You're going to hate me for that, putting Dark Souls 2 above Dark Souls 1 and 3. But here's the thing. I understand its incredible flaws. This game, adaptability is just complete bullshit. I don't know why they ever thought that was a good idea. And it is true that a lot of guys are just dudes in armor. But for me, Dark Souls 2 is kind of all about, like, the friends we made along the way. I had tons of incredible experiences playing through Dark Souls 2. I remember the hype building up to it and going through it for the first time and uncovering the secrets and really enjoying the lore and, you know, just the setting. Like, I love, even to this day, the song from Majula is just an incredible one. And I also really, really loved going through Dark Souls 2, doing the no bonfire, no death run with some of my friends. And that was incredibly, just, well, in the beginning it was overwhelming, but by the end of it, it was just so rewarding to finally do that after platinuming the game, which, by the way, I felt like this was the hardest one out of all the Dark Souls games to platinum. It was one hell of a journey, a very long one, but I loved every moment of it, despite its jank. And all those flaws that people say it has, it definitely has, but I love it. Then there's the original Dark Souls 2. I will put this one down here. The one thing that everything I kind of said about Scholar of the First Sin is kind of the same way I feel about Dark Souls 2, but I just feel like in the original release that jank is kind of turned up to 11 and almost an intolerable amount. There's just, I don't know, just the flaws really show through on that one, and I know it may make no sense to have such a big jump, but I feel like you can feel the difference in quality between these two releases. So that's kind of why it sits there. The original Demon Souls. Now, I'm probably also going to put this one in the A ranking. I think Demon Souls did a lot for the industry as a whole, and of course it kickstarted all of this. You know, the Souls games wouldn't even exist without Demon Souls. But, I mean, it is really janky, kind of hard to play, has some mechanics that's, like, just kind of complete bullshit. I don't hate world tendency, but I do hate the fact that in order to co-op with somebody, you have to be in Phantom version, you know, you have to essentially kill yourself to co-op, and it just adds these, like, struggles that unfortunately they didn't even fix in the remake. However, with the remake, I will say that overall I think it's an overall better game. There's a lot more I don't want to say complexity, but they made things, I guess, more accessible. So I'm like almost like the opposite. But they made things a lot more accessible. Things are cleaned up. The jank is kind of gone for the most part. I mean, you can still feel it in some places, but they do still have some of the same bullshit, like you have to be dead in order to summon in, and at least world tendency is a bit easier to keep track of and things like that. I just think it's an overall better version of Demon Souls. Code Vein Anime Souls. I'm gonna slap that comfortably in the S rank. This is another one of the Souls games that I did platinum. Its platinum journey is a really grindy one because you do actually have to go through the game like 3 times. And it does have some levels that kind of really repeat, like end on end on end. And it's really obnoxious sometimes. But overall, the character designs were fantastic. I really enjoyed the story. I think the music is crazy good, and the combat style was different enough to kind of like separate itself from Dark Souls and all those other games. I highly recommend you check it out. It is a incredible game and well worth your time. And then we have Bloodborne, and I want to talk about Bloodborne. Bloodborne is an obvious S+. It is one of From Software's best games ever made. But I want to talk about Bloodborne for a minute because I was thinking about this with my friends, and I find Bloodborne is this game where it's like you think back to it and you're like, wow, the combat was tight, the designs were so cool, there is just so much in Bloodborne to love. But then I was really reminiscing about like the moment-to-moment gameplay, and I was like, oh yeah, all the way up to Father Gascoigne, that was great. You know, heading down to Old Yharnam, I mean, that was a bit of a pain in the ass, okay, but it was fun. And I was like, and then you had the forest, and you know, all that stuff, and I was like, but man, after you beat Rom, this game kind of gets miserable, doesn't it? You know, it just gets like really miserable. You're always just fighting enemies that are a pain in the ass, or they're completely cheap, or like whatever. And I was like, oh, and then you start dealing with the Mensis and Frenzy and yada yada. And I just started to think, I was like, man, did I have more fun in this game actually playing through, like, the dungeons, like the Chalice dungeons? Because they were more, like, challenging, but they were consistent, and they weren't always, like, just obnoxious and, like, a pain in the ass to go through. I started to realize, like, despite this game and giving it praises for so long and it being, like, an S+ game, do I actually hate this game? Is, like, 85% of this game complete bullshit? And I just don't know. I love Bloodborne. Everybody loves Bloodborne. It is a fantastic Souls-like game, and probably one of the best. If it wasn't for Elden Ring, I would say that Bloodborne is From Software's best game. So yeah, let me just think about this for a second. Is there anything I want to change? I'm gonna say no. I think this is pretty accurate as to how I feel about the From Software games. I know a lot of people aren't gonna like seeing Dark Souls 2 there, but it's just kind of how it is. I mean, I love the game. What can I say? But yeah, so there we go. All right, so there you go, my take on the Souls-like games. Now keep in mind, I did platinum almost every single game on this list, so I have spent plenty of time with every single one of them, and I know them from start to finish. So, I mean, that doesn't validate my opinion any more than anybody else's, but I definitely know these games inside and out. Anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button if you guys enjoyed it and you want to see more. Subscribe. There will be more ranking videos in the future, and I will see you guys all in the next video.